Most people spend their entire lives trying to master one world. My next guest has already taken on several. This week on Tales from a Trap, I'm joined by former professional MMA fighter Ian M16 Butlin. Inside the cage, Ian built his life around discipline, pressure and competition. But in 2013, he decided it was time to take on a completely different challenge. He turned his attention to commentating, acting and producing films, swapping the fight game for microphones, cameras and film sets. And if that wasn't enough, Ian has recently completed his master's degree at the highly prestigious King's College in London. We talk about the mindset it takes to compete as a professional fighter, the decision to completely reinvent yourself, breaking into the entertainment industry, and why Ian has never stopped looking for his next challenge. From professional MMA to filmmaking to higher education to commentating on MMA fights all around the world, this is a story about discipline and proving that you're never just limited to just one path in life. Make sure you tune in with Ian M16 Butlin, only on the Tales from a Trap podcast. Welcome back to the Tales from a Trap podcast, and today we are joined by an old pal of mine. His name is Ian M16 Butlin. He's in the building and he's got a great story. So please put your hands together for Ian Butlin in the building.
Thank you, Terry.
Well, it's good to see you, mate.
Yeah, good to see you as well.
I know it's a bit of a trek to come down and see us, but hopefully it's worth the visit.
Yeah, do you know what? I always like a trip down to London anyway. It's not somewhere I could live, but I don't mind coming for a few days at a time. It's nice.
It's good to get in and out of the madness, as I say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Nice. In and out quick, I think. You know, we're sort of country boys used to the countryside. I've got fields around me, so it's all right. It's a bit hectic, but it's nice.
Brilliant. So for all of their audience that aren't into mixed martial arts or boxing, they might not know who you are. So obviously we worked on Tales from a Trap together. You and your brother are both exec producers on the project, and you're in the movie as actors, which was good fun. So before we get into your story, it'd be good just to talk a little bit about Tales from a Trap, talk a little bit about, you know, when you come on the set, what you thought about the script, and just about the film in general, because obviously you've been on set a few times and, you know, you've sort of met all the guys and girls that were in the film. So
yeah, I mean, it was good. It was good to get on the set and see, you know, from the difference between how we film our films, which is a lot smaller scale, to the scale that you've done Tales from the Trap. Obviously, I've watched a lot of The Rise of the Foot Soldier and things like that, so I knew it was going to be, like, you know, the bigger budget, but so well organised and everything. And I read the script, I think, a couple of months before we came down, so I had a good idea what was going on. And Andy hadn't had a chance to read the script before we came down to visit for the first time to watch. So I was reading it to him in the car on the way down, saying, this will be good, you know, this bit, you know, like you've got the trap houses, you've got this. And, you know, I loved Top Boy. I loved The Wire I still think is up there with, you know, the best series has ever written. And this is like that sort of UK version of that, isn't it? And
with The Wire, Power, Top Boy, all of these great shows. That was really the inspiration for the movie. Yeah, because I'm, like you, big fan of those shows. You know, so.
That's it. And I think, you know, like the way The Wire. The reason I describe that as being one of the best series is because of the way it works through the different layers. You know, you've got the street level guys and working up. And I do think that, you know, what people are going to see from Tales from the Trap, especially, you know, we've talked about future films, is that same sort of development of the characters. And you've got the guys, you know, Blazing, Rav Steelo, Fumes, Amzino. They were amazing. You know, say the first time actors, really, were they? And you know, they played the characters so well. It was like you watched them as the gang and Fumes as the boss, and you thought, you know, they were real. It was like, yeah, this could be really them. So yeah, it was really, really good. I loved seeing you as a copper.
You know, but we wanted to make it authentic, and I thought, you know, I've seen a couple of TV shows, and I've also seen a couple of films where actors pretend to be rappers.
Yes,
and it really is bad.
Yeah,
and I think, you know, if you've got somebody that needs to rap in a movie. You need the criteria, if you like, is they've got to be able to rap.
Yeah.
They've got to be able to perform act.
and they've got to be reliable.
Yes.
So obviously finding people that can do those three things isn't easy.
It's not the easiest.
But we managed to get some obscenely talented people on the film, and we mixed and matched sort of music artists with actors, with people that have been in massive Hollywood films and big TV shows. And what we've ended up with is something that, you watch it and you go, wow, so I'm excited for everybody, hopefully in the world, watches this movie.
I honestly think that I think when people see it, I think it will blow up big. It's one of those where I think it's going to gain traction more and more. You see the Instagram following of some of these young rappers and the people behind them. And that's just for the music. When they see they can actually act as well. And I thought they were so good. And I know Thierry that I work with on Visage Cinema is the writer and director, and he has this thing where he prefer to work with people that have got, it's a bit of a blank canvas. They've not really done any acting before. Right. The fact that you've got those rappers who have got that skill set, they can get out there, they're definitely, performers, but you can sort of mold them into what you do. Monty did a great job directing, yourself guiding them and everything like that. I'm so excited for people to see what Tales the Shop turns into. I think it is going to do really well, and I'm excited to see if if it takes off the way we think it's going to. We move on to further. Yeah, we'll
be doing part 2 this year.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, it'll be great.
But Ian, it's great to have you on. It was good to give everyone a little teaser of what's coming on Tales from the Trap.
Yeah.
But it'd be great to hear a little bit about your life, where you were born, where you grew up, and a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah. So I mean. I was born in Huddersfield. I lived there for the majority. Well, for all my childhood, I moved to Manchester for a few years when I did uni. But I grew up 2 brothers. I've got an identical twin, and then a younger brother who's 2.5 years younger. Andy, who obviously involved in the project and on the film. So you can imagine a house growing up when you've got 3 lads with a lot of testosterone. We ended up wanting to fight. That's just, and that was just that. And I grew up at a time when Karate Kid was just massive.
Right.
It really blew up. And we've got 2 guys in, one who's Jim, I actually coaching, Bob and Tony Sykes. They were like really pioneers in the country for karate at the time. They had a place called the Karate Warehouse. They had the Martial Arts Illustrated magazine. So in my town, it was big.
I used to read that.
Yeah, so I teach Bob's son Ollie. He just got his black belt this week actually off me. Very, very good jiu-jitsu world kickboxing champion. Really, really good. So it was a big magazine, wasn't it? So our town, Huddersfield, was big for the karate. So I'm telling my mum and dad, Karate Kids on the TV. I want to do karate. My dad was a dentist. My mum, dental nurse. We're not having you kicking and punching each other.
Right.
Yeah. So,
why not?
So, and they had a friend who was a judo instructor. So they don't want to send us to karate. You can see, if you look at our history now, they made a massive mistake. It didn't stop anything, did it? But at the time, they thought the best plan was
judo was the gateway drug.
Yeah, let's get this is it. That's exactly it. So I was like, right, let's get them doing judo, which, to be honest, helped me as things went on, because doing a grappling art, which at that point wasn't as attractive. There wasn't. It wasn't the same now as, everyone wants to grapple because they've seen the UFC. Like at that point, it wasn't the same. Karate Kid was huge. You had American Ninja. You had Jean-Claude Van Damme just coming through.
Everyone wanted to do the wax on, wax off.
Yeah, kick, punch, jumping, crane kicks, jumping, spinning back kicks. So I was a bit disappointed, I'll be honest, to go to judo, but I learned some real good stuff from there. And that was from being 8 years old. It's my first chance to compete. So Richard Dunn Sports Centre at Bradford was where everyone went to do the competing. We went there. I competed in front of a big crowd, and I got a real taste for competition, for actually getting out there, challenge yourself against another person. And I think everything I did moving on from there came from getting into there and, and grappling and winning some competitions in judo. From there, there was a Thai boxing club opened up at the sports centre where I did the judo. And by this point, I'm getting to 11, 12, and I'm allowed to sort of make my own decisions a little bit more. And so I started going to the Thai boxing. Then where the Thai boxing moved from the sports centre to the YMCA, and above there was a boxing club. So I started doing the Thai boxing, and then they go upstairs to do the boxing. So that went on for a while. I was I boxed with there's a club called Rawthorpe Boxing Club opened up, Me and my brothers went up there when it very first started. Mark Reynolds, great coach of box for England, a really good level boxer, and his brother Mickey, who again was, had 70 odd fights and boxed for England. So good technical boxers, which I love that sort of technical side of the art. So yeah, we started training there, started fighting, competing at the boxing, and then I was boxing, a decent level of boxing in Cyprus and the Seychelles, representing England select squads.
How many fights did you have as a boxer?
Just over 20 as a boxer. So we had this thing where we say, have gum shield will travel. So we'd go with his gum shield and hopefully get a spare match. So because there's a lot fall through and things like that. So we'd go down there, we'd try and get the matches and things like that. And then I watched the UFC. It was back then. It was on. It was like VHS videos, right? And there was I forget what it was, like a QVC or some this shop in Huddersfield Town Centre, and they had like a martial arts section. And for some reason, before UFC 1 came out, they had UFC 2 in there. So I've got this UFC. I see Hoist Gracie winning. It's like, wow. He
amazing. Was something else, wasn't he? I mean, he was.
Yeah. I mean, unbelievable. And Roberto Tala, who's my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach, who I've just spent the last week with again. I did all my grades through him, and he trained like directly through the Gracies. Got his, so he's first sort of generation there, and one of the first black belts who came out to the UK. I brought him over in 2003 to live with us. So at that point there wasn't really any black belts or anything in the country. So that was kind of like the progression along through at least like the sport side of why I went through. And you see the UFC starts and it's like, this is perfect. I've already grappled, I've already boxed, I've already Thai boxed. So it just seemed like a natural progression to then go into it. So I get on Google, having a look, whatever it was, but then probably actually like Microsoft or some sort of search engine, looking for where can I learn this. And back then it wasn't really, everyone wasn't calling it MMA, it was still like Vale Tudo and things like that. So I'm looking, where can I find this no rules fighting? And pops up a guy in Halifax he's trained with the Lion's Den with Ken Shamrock and then fought in Japan. This can't be real. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I found him, and he was a really good guy, so far ahead of other people of his time, a guy called Les Allen. He'd competed in pancreas in Japan, and I started training with him like 5 days a week. And so that's how the transition went into mixed martial arts. Right.
And, that's obviously where the legendary status came. And how many mixed martial arts fights did you end up having?
God, I can't remember what my record was. My record's about 50-50, probably about the same as the boxing, like 20-20. Right. Like, I think with that and then the unlicensed boxing, everything like that, I've come to about 45 fights altogether, because I won.
And was the unlicensed boxing before the
That was after, getting a little bit. That sort of came around as a bit of I'm not saying it was like a graveyard for retired fighters, but it was that kind of thing, you'd get some ex-pros that still wanted to make a bit of ticket money and stuff. I mean, our Andy boxed Billy Joe Saunders in his last pro fight and then went on to the unlicensed, and he went like 9-10-0 or 9-10-1 or something as a, in the unlicensed. It was just, again, it was like, you can't fully commit to professional fighting anymore. And, things happen. You get kids, you've got life, you've got family, you've got businesses that you've built up and run. And it's hard to stick to. It's a very selfish lifestyle, being a professional fighter. You literally can't. You've just got to think of yourself. You've got your diet and everything. And to be honest, you're not a very nice person to be around with your diet either. Right. So, because
you're hangry and you're also going to punch someone's head in. So.
Yeah, but this is it. Yeah. You're very, very irritable. So, the unlicensed is a good way where the guys who can't fully commit to the professional lifestyle can still carry on sort of making some money out of the ticket sales.
Brilliant. And then obviously you're doing all this stuff and you're sort of going along in your life, and you got a bit of a name for yourself as a debt collector.
Yeah.
So how did that start? Was you doing door work as well?
I've done door work as well in the past, and I have an SIA license, although I don't really use it now. But when I was doing some door work when I was younger, it was before they had all that sort of, the strict stuff. But the debt collection things, it came like there's always opportunities to collect debts because there's always people ripping people off in there. Like we know that, you know, from lots of different things we've done. And you know, from very early on, when you've got the ability to fight, I think it gives you a presence that you can go and collect. It doesn't mean that every debt collector you're going to go batter somebody, but people know what could happen if they don't. And so that's how
So it was more about making them an offer they couldn't refuse.
yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. That's it. So,
and was it just literally like businesses that were owed money, or was it individuals?
Or individuals and things like that. So there was all sorts of things. And my basic thing is, and it's still the same now, is you know, if I get offered, I'm very selective about what sort of debt collects I choose, but. You know, 50% of something is worth more than 100% of nothing. Right. So I'll take 50% of anything I collect in. If someone owes you £100 and I go collect that 100, I'm going to take 50. You're going to get 50. Yeah. If out of that £100 we only get 25 quid, we're getting 12 and a half each. You know, so I take 50% of anything I collect in. Right, okay. And that's how it always worked. And for years, you know, we sort of developed the people we were collecting from, the reputation that we had and the way that we worked. And as that happens, as with any business, things build up and the numbers get bigger and you get a better name for yourself. I had a manager who he managed me through my fight career, you know, and really did help me as well financially through my fight career. And got me some good opportunities for a lot of the MMA fighters around. He's unfortunately in Majesty's holiday camp right now. But yeah, but he'll be out soon. But he was very big in the sport in MMA early on. You know,
what was his brand called?
Cage Warriors. So
I remember that. I mean, that was massive.
Yeah, so it was massive. Yeah, and I had a lot of fights for Cage Warriors. I fought for Cage Warriors title in 2004. I lost to a guy called Emmanuel Fernandez, who was a very, very good fighter at the time, top grappler. And my first submission loss against, I think as much as anything with that one, I was, he was the first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt I'd fought, and I think in my head, I think I lost in my head before the fight. When I was really nervous, like when I look back at it, I think, do you know what, I could have done a lot better. But you know, yeah, you always have that, and I like to sort of look at things in hindsight. But yeah, so with Andy, he managed me through my fight career, and then also had a big network of people for debt collects. A lot of debt collects we ended up doing within the Midlands and things like that. So so I worked through doing that kind of thing. And like I said, the numbers got bigger, we got a better reputation, and things worked well. So
and what with the guy who you mentioned, who is currently residing on His Majesty's pleasure, how long did he actually get in jail?
20 plus years he got. Wow. So yeah, it's a big sentence.
Can you talk about it or not really?
Well, I don't want to say too much about other people. I don't really talk too much. But yeah, he didn't do very much, but you know how it is with things. You can get tied into things that you might not have done yourself. But he's a really good guy, and he looked after me a lot. Right. You know, and maybe something we can talk about on, you know, we talked about your other podcast. Yeah, so maybe say for that one. But he was a big part of my fight career, and he was a big part of also us building the other sort of business that we did. I mean, with the debt collects, like, you know, there was some debt collects. Back in the day, like, and I'm totally honest about my past and the things that have happened, and I've been in the police station for certain things, and I'm, you know, when I'm not replying with no comment, there's times when I've said, look, if person A tells me that person B owes them £100,000 and I can have half the money if I collect it, I'll collect it. The law changed a lot over the years. And you know, you could end up in the concern of supply or whatever if you're working as what the police would title an enforcer. So it's like, look, you know, you get to an age where I've got kids, I've got a future. You don't want to be putting yourself in that sort of risky situation. So things have to change. But what actually happened, and it was more of a natural progression, really, from probably 2010 onwards, is that a lot of the calls and things I was getting for collects were people who were like busting limited companies
Right.
So they'd do a big housing development, and then they bust the company and not pay the bathroom fitters, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds. So because we'd got this sort of reputation for doing the collects, that it started to develop into that.
So you become the Robin Hood of debt collectors.
Yeah, this is it. It's like, do you know what? Because I like investigations, so I've got that kind of investigating mentality. Like I like to look into things and search. So we were doing things. I do a lot of what is now like fairly well known as open source intelligence,
right,
sort of stuff. So I'm looking through, company's house, limited company stuff, searching, getting information. Where by the time I actually go to land on someone to say, look, you owe this money, I can prove that they've done stuff that's
right,
pretty illegal. So. It's the sort of thing that probably the police wouldn't have time to look into and do, and would probably call it a civil matter. People don't want to have to go to like small claims, and sometimes these are bigger claims, don't go to court and all that sort of thing. So it's an opportunity where, look, I can go land on people and say, listen, we know you've done wrong. Here's the evidence that you've done wrong. Here's everything about you. And that worked. So a lot of the collects that we did from sort of 2010 onwards were that kind of collect. And, again, we did well with it. We got a good reputation for it. I can't count, Terry, the amount of people where I've gone and collected of them, and they go, well, I've got debts off so could you collect these? And I'm just like, well, look, as soon as you cleared your debt, you can be a client, but you can't be a client until you've paid your money. It's not one of them where they'll go, well, if you collect off them, you can pay this one. No, I'm not. That's not me.
Yeah, you're not
you pay your debts. Yeah, exactly. Look, I'm not doing your job for you.
Right.
So, but I will do the job. And like I say, it worked for a long time, and I did enjoy the job, and I still do. If someone comes to me with a problem, and we ended up sort of developing it, so I call it more dispute resolution, because as I was doing the collects and I'm looking at the information, and I get as much information as I can on the person, but also on the person who the money's owed to, and I want to know both sides, because everyone comes to a story with one side of a story, don't they? And so what actually ended up, it sort of developed into the situation where I'd go see somebody and they'd tell me a totally different story. I've got enough evidence so that I know when they're lying. Right. But also, look, we might be in the middle of something. So a lot of times I've end up sat down with two people who there may be, 6-7 figures owed between the two of them. And it's like, look, what sort of conclusion are we going to come to where we can sort stuff out, And because of the network of people that I've got, generally, if say it was Birmingham, we done collected as a simple example, and we use Birmingham Football Club because I've got someone who knows the people for the meeting was there, so we all go sit there. They're well known in the town. That's the sort of people that I deal with. So you've already got someone who's well known in that town. They bring the two people there. I've got a reputation for doing the collect. We come in, we sit there. It's like, look, how we're going to leave this room so that everybody's happy. And that's how it sort of turned out. So it's not, when you say debt collect, people think you're going knocking on a door, threatening someone and giving them a crack. But it was very, very far from that. It was a lot more in depth, a lot more investigation and intelligence used. And then again, using your network, which is something I've done all through my life. That's how we end up meeting. It's using a network of people and having a good reputation. I've got a reputation for, if I go collect £1 million and I take that back, I'm going to take every single bit back. I'm not even going to take my petrol money out of it until we get there, and then we split the money. That's how it works. And I think from that you grow and people recommend you.
100%. And obviously everyone knows in London there's obviously a lot of crime and there's a lot of criminals and there's lots of different things going on. And I'm sure it's up and down the country, it's throughout the UK. But for you in Huddersfield, obviously you're doing this debt collecting, you're in this mixed martial arts world. You've obviously been around a lot of sort of interesting characters.
Yeah.
And there was one that we did speak about who unfortunately got killed. And, I mean, I love to hear that story. I'll share it with...
Yeah. Well, I mean, look... One thing I'll be that I'm really honest with is I don't do a lot of work in Huddersfield, and I haven't done for a long time.
Is Huddersfield? I mean, is it just because there isn't really a lot of stuff going on there? It's more sort of international or bigger city stuff. Yeah,
no, it's more. I find that people from your own town can be very jealous of success, because and this is a thing, I'm not just talking for me, I'm talking for you see this across the board. I'm very interested in psychology and things like that, you know what I'm like with loving to study and things like that, and I definitely think there's a psychological thing where people have a jealousy if you're being successful because they're looking at you and you're from the same place as them and they haven't done it. So then there's like a hatred and a snidiness. The relationships and the quality of people that I know up and down the country in many, many different cities through mixed martial arts or through other business that I do, those sort of people have got so much respect and I feel that your name can carry more in other cities than it does in your own, where everyone wants to bitch and snide about you. So I don't do very much work or anything much with people in Huddersfield. I just find that it's that sort of place.
What's the saying? Don't shit on your own doorstep.
This is it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I specifically try not to shit on my own doorstep, Terry. So, but yeah, the issue, and I know we're talking about Yasser Yaqub, and it was in all the national newspapers and stuff. Yasser was. To me, was a good friend. He used to come to the gym, learn some boxing. My brother was, my twin brother was closer with him, and he was doing some of the boxing coaching for him and stuff.
Because I know he's been billed as this like sort of crime boss, super criminal, whatever. I mean, was that just sort of egging it up, or
Look, I think that in any situation that you get, like, we know what the media's like. The media like to stick labels on everybody and exaggerate everything everybody does and things. To me, it was a good guy. He was a family man. I know his dad, his mum, his sisters, his brother-in-law. I'm close with. They're all, just a nice family. Like, it's easy to read newspaper articles and think that someone's the same. But in the same respect, when you talk about the situation, I've avoided really talking about it, and you'll see that I won't say very much, because there's certain people in the world that you can't argue with, and that was proven on that night, Right. And I think there was worse people there in that situation who got away lightly that are still on this planet walking. Yeah. So. It was a horrible situation for the way it happened. I was sat in the court thing because my brother was with him on that night. That he was in the car behind. He wasn't in the same car.
And what was it, like a car chase, or what? Or was it some sort of setup?
Yeah, there was a setup. So basically, they'd been over to a meeting. My brother didn't go into the meeting. He was sat outside, have spoke to someone who was in the meeting, just because we wanted clarity on what really happened. Because as far as we were all concerned, there was a discrepancy over some money. The discussion had been done, I believe. And on the way home, Dave actually rang my younger brother and said, everything's cool, we're sorted. That's that. That was the last phone call we heard from him. And at that point, he was on the motorway on the way back. Dave said the first thing that he remembers was he thought it was unusual that if you're coming down the 606 towards the M62, the speed camera lights flashed behind him because the car behind him had come through so fast. So then you look in your rearview mirror, don't you? You've seen an X5, which he immediately thought that was unusual. Is it sort of the police car? As they're coming off the M62 slip road, they're driving down. So Dave's behind the car that had Yasser in the passenger seat. They're coming down, and there's a car parked like on the slip road, like an abandoned car. So they had to slow down for it. Well, this was clearly there to slow down for what was about to happen. Another car power slides round here like this. It's safe, so you hear it growling. I think it was an E63 AMG that had been taken off someone a few days before. It clips the front of Yasser's car, fires the 3 shots into him, and that was it.
I mean, that sounds like a James Bond movie.
Yeah, I liked it. Look, fair play to the guys that have done it. This is why I won't want to say too much, because the last thing I want is for something like that to happen to me. And I've said to you before, Anna, that there was a big change in all of us after that. It was like, here, look, it's not even worth getting involved in this sort of thing. Like your friend says, can you come with me as a bit of backup in case something kicks off? And the next thing you're seeing something like that happen. They were dragged out the car. They were face down on the floor, not able to look or see anything. Dave was then taken to the police station, as they all were. They were in there for days. Like, the first call I got was to say that I think your brother's been shot. Someone said that the white guy's dead. So we were making calls. It was obviously it's a stressful time. I was going to go with them. We were involved. It was my friend's birthday, so we ended up staying there. And like I said, it wasn't like this was going to be some serious, like, big thing, like it was made out in the papers. It was just literally like, might need a little bit of an help because it's a contentious situation between some people. I don't really know the details. But, so we thought, I thought my twin brother could be dead. We were trying to go to the hospitals. We're getting around trying to see what's going on. Then we got a call of someone to say that Dave had been seen at Huddersfield Royal Infirmary and it was all right. So it was like, my brother was all right. Yeah. But we know someone's dead. The police are all over. So at that point, from going to what my brothers told me about it, they were in the police station a fair few days because, they can keep you a bit longer when there's something like this.
When there's been a murder.
Yeah, when there's been a murder, yeah. Right. So, and Dave will go no comment. Well, he doesn't actually say anything in his interview. He'll just stay completely quiet. He said, and a lot of he was in shock, like what's going on. So he's not even saying no comment. He's just listening to what's been said, listening to the questions, and he said it was the third day. So they were talking about Yasser as if he was alive. So he thought Yasser was in the police station with him.
Right.
So in his head, he's thinking that what he'd seen hadn't happened. It's a strange situation to be in, isn't it? Like we knew something had happened, but he's in there, you're in a cell, you don't really know very much. So they were, I believe the way that they were talking to him, he was under the impression that Yasser was in there with him. Right. And then it was only on the third day that he walked in, and because he'd been going no comment, obviously they're trying to get him to say something. And he walked in and there was just pictures of Yasser dead on the table. And he said that was the first that he realised, my friend's been killed. And from there, I don't think Dave's really got over that, like it is. That's going to affect you pretty badly, innit? And it's, for me as for my twin brother and also with the Yasser's family and everything, and Dave's relayed things back to the family and stuff afterwards, and that really does make you think, fuck this, this is not for me. If they can do things like that to you over, what seems like a minor, really. Like I know it's made out too big. So
it's a good cautionary tale to let when people say to you, "Oh, do you want to come on this or do you want to do that?" Because the other thing is that there was somebody who I had on a podcast recently, and he actually went somewhere to carry out a shooting, and he asked a girl to drop him off. And she had no clue what he was doing. She had no clue that he even had a gun on him, right? And then he went to his corner shop, bought some sweets, come back in and said, "Oh, you've got some sweets, let's go." But obviously, if that guy had killed somebody, then, she would have been done for murder.
You're involved,
And but he didn't even tell her. That was even worse. So I think if you're going in the car or doing anything with anybody that's remotely suspect, I think you should always sort of pat them down before you get in the car.
That's it. It's like I just think there's situations that it's as you get older.
When you're younger, you don't give a as you get older.
I've got kids, like I said. There's situations that are going on right now that I'd be treating very, very differently if I was a single guy. No kids to look after. I go out now. Any decision you make, I've got a son and two daughters that I've got to think about first before I do anything. So, things do change, don't they?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and it's probably in some people's benefit because there's a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm so glad that Ian's got children now and he's married and he's settled down. Become sensible in his old age.
That's it. Yeah. I wouldn't say that. I just use logic.
Yeah, and a lot of people probably won't know, but you've got a degree, and right, wow, I thought you only had one. So you got 2 degrees, and you're doing a master's as well, aren't you?
Yeah, well, so I've got a master's degree and a bachelor's degree. So I did my bachelor's degree at Edge Hill University, which was part of Lancaster University at the time. It's its own actual university now. So I did that in sports studies with urban policy studies as a minor. So looking at things like Margaret Thatcher and the New Right and all that sort of stuff, which I know I've told you before, it wasn't something I planned on doing, but they just sort of added me onto this sort of major minor course when I was wanting to do sports science. But it was really good for me, and it gave me a real interest in sort of local politics and international politics and things like that.
You're going to be running as the local MP for Huddersfield.
Do you know what? Like this could be a completely different podcast, but I think there's a lot of things that could do with being changed. And there's change to make. And I just think if I wanted to do something like that, and I do think there's some real and I love our country. I love the UK. I know there's so many people that slate it and they slate the way things are going. I love our country. I think we live in one of the best countries in the world. We've got an opportunity where it could be so much better. Like, as you know, my second degree, my master's, I studied at King's College in international affairs. I travel to many countries with my job. I learn about the different countries through the stuff that I do, and we're so lucky for where we live. I know there's some issues at the moment, things that need to be fixed. I do think there's agendas going on that to bring certain policies in. I wrote my dissertation for my master's on can individual privacy and national security go hand in hand in the years post Edward Snowden. Right. I'm a real big believer, and if we talk about the things with my company Black Cairn, I'm a big believer in privacy.
When did you set up Black Cairn?
So Black Cairn I set up in 2000, I think, where it actually sort of I give it a brand and started working with it. But the things that I do with Black Cairn are things that I've done throughout the debt collections, the investigations, and things like that. And there's two real sides to the company. One is the protection side of it, and one is the investigation side. They go hand in hand, because the better you are at investigating, finding out information about someone, the better you are at keeping that private as well. And so we work specifically with high net worth individuals, and we look at making sure, you probably know the most valuable commodity in the world right now is data.
Right. So
we look at how you can not leak your data. It's impossible now. We've all got smartphones. We've all got an online presence. We've all got computers. It's impossible to not leak your data. But you can reduce the amount of data you leak and at least keep it so that things are tight from competitors, business stuff. When we're doing due diligence and things for competitors and competitor analysis for our clients, it's so easy to find information on a lot of people because they're not holding the data. And we're living in a time where our children are not going to understand privacy in the same way we did. And this is a big thing for me, especially having two daughters. So, just simply using things like Tutanota or Proton Mail, encrypted emails, using your VPNs when you should do, not just giving all your data away to Apple. Like I always ask people how much did you pay for your email address? Which is it's a very simple question. How much did you pay for?
Nothing.
And I'm going to tell you you're wrong.
Right.
I paid for my email address and my email with money. You paid with your data. You click that thing for Gmail or for Hotmail. What you're allowing them to do is read your emails. They can read there's something called HMRC Connect that's come out. I don't know if you know about this. It's an AI for HMRC, but it links all these sort of things together, so they can look and they can say, look, like this guy's putting this much on his tax return, but yeah, he's got invoices for this and this and this, or this is what he's spending on Amazon. So and I can understand why they're doing it. Look, the country does that, and I believe in this. Right. I think that we do need to fix up. There's some huge leaks and things like that. But for me, it's personal data that you don't allow. Your pictures in your iPhone don't belong to you. You've agreed to share them, your notes. So here's a good example, and this is one that
should I get a BlackBerry? Is that what you're saying?
No, but if you want an encrypted graphene phone, I know a guy. But yeah, just as an example now, look, you've got a young kid. He's 18 years old. He's forward thinking. He's looking to be an entrepreneur, and he's putting his notes into his Apple Notes.
Right.
Yeah, everyone's got that. They all put their ideas in there. He comes up with this idea. It's the best idea ever. Well, do you know what? He's putting in his Apple Notes. Apple already knows about your idea. You might have been the only person. You could have been inventing something that's amazing. Apple's just done it. Right. Do you know what I mean? Like these little things. I know that's it.
You never think about it.
You don't think about
it.
Things
all
like
becomes convenient, doesn't it?
Yeah, and this is it. And convenience is the enemy of privacy. I say this on like I use this a lot.
So, Proton Mail was one that you mentioned.
Yeah.
How much does that cost?
It depends whether you use it for sort of a business, for personal. I've got a few different accounts because I use like sort of Proton Mail, Proton Drive. Instead of having a Google Drive, right. We've got the Proton VPN. So I use like the whole package with Black Cairn. So that one with a few different members of staff and everything like that might cost me £400 a year. Right. My personal one might cost me like £30 a year. Something. It's not massive money, and I'd much rather pay with pound notes than I would with my data.
Right. And as we saw with the those phones, the what were they called? The
Encro.
The Encro chat phones. That was it. I was trying to think what they were called. Obviously, everyone thought those were secure. So, as you're in that game, is anything really secure? Or if somebody wants to get in, they can?
Look, if you're talking about trying to keep things from three-letter agencies, I think you're running up a slippery slope.
I'll be honest with you. Like when anyone says, "Oh, yeah, it's encrypted," or it's private, I always think if somebody really wanted to see it, there's always going to be a way.
You're just not getting past all that. But and look. I can't tell you how many people with it, like, because I knew people that were using these Encro phones for business and things like that, and it's like, look, I won't trust what you're doing, and I hate to say I'm not like an I told you so kind of guy. It's like, look, but I do believe, like, with
I get it. If you was a member of the royal family, or you was a high net worth, or you was a footballer, I'd understand why you'd want one of those phones.
If you look at this with encryption, and look at that, I forget what they call it, but there was like a leak thing, and it was loads of famous people's like nudes and things like that got all leaked, and that was just because they had the pictures in.
Well, did you see my ones in there?
Yes, I was. Yeah, I was very impressed, Terry, to be honest.
I thought just a pretty face.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I can see why your missus is always smiling.
But it is mad though to think that people would actually. Especially if you're a celebrity, you take pictures of yourself nude and then put them somewhere.
Yeah, and put them into a phone that's just not secure. So
I suppose you wouldn't want to be going to snappy snaps, would you?
No, this is it. Yeah, well, honestly. So, like, you look at it and you go, look, we live in a time where there is, like I'm saying, there's no privacy like there used to be, but you can at least make it a little bit better. Like I said, if you're trying to hide your data and you're trying to hide your pictures and what you're doing from three-letter agencies, I think you're just banging your head against a brick wall. But if you're trying to do it for my clients who are trying to do it for the competitors, and things like that, or if you've got, for young people who are, they've got these sort of ideas and they want to try and keep those things private. Look. Write it down on a piece of paper and put it in a safe. Like, I still believe in
that's the old school way. I mean, I've still got a paper diary, and people always go, "Why don't you put it in your phone?" But I always find that I miss things. Where if it's written in my diary, I can look at it and go, right, and I've got to speak to Ian at 10:30. I've got to speak to John at 12.
I love having a notepad. I've got notepads. I've got books. I can look back at my ideas for Black Cairn and how I developed it from before it was Black Cairn 18, 19. The things that we do with Visage Cinema. Thierry is the same as me. Like, Thierry writes everything. I do go mad at him for writing his passwords in his little book because I'm like, come on, what is the? Do you know what I mean? But because I fully believe in using a password manager for all. But like, I don't know. I'm really funny with people that have got the same password for everything. It's like, please, like, you can't understand how dangerous that is. So I use a password manager, and I get all that. It's one of the first things I get everyone to do. Right. Thierry's password manager happens to be a little book that he writes all his notes in.
You're getting some free education here, guys. But for anybody that wants to get in touch with you, I take it it's just through social media, right?
Yeah, definitely. I've got I'm very active on Instagram. I don't have social media on my phone.
Right.
Not for privacy reasons or anything like that. Literally for distraction, and I want to be able to, get on with my day. But I do check my social media pretty much every day. Like I'll check, see if I've got any messages. I'm on Facebook and Instagram for things like that, and I'm happy to always chat about, if you look at the sort of three pillars of my work, I've got Black Cairn, which, I love. That all these are sort of passions that turned into businesses. MMA consultancy, originally, like from 2004 when I started, we were supplying referees, judges, ring girls, things like that to events and the commentary team and things. Now I focused entirely on the commentary and the presentation. I work very close with my friend Ian the Machine Freeman, who was one of the first fighters in the UFC. Yeah. Really close friend.
I haven't seen him for years.
He's such a good guy. I was literally working his show last weekend. He's got the best amateur show in the UK, Machine MMA. And he's basically running an amateur show that's like, and even for the kids, so the kids in the afternoon, the adults on the night, and it's like a professional show. You got the big screens. He's got to learn everything we did from M1. We fought. We've been all around the world with M1 together. And he's took all the sort of little bits and he's made a show that because if you were sat there, if you didn't, you see the kids walking out, they're like walking out to the UFC. It's like, it's an amazing event. He does a really good job. And he's got the deal with Cage Warriors now where it's the road to Cage Warriors. So, you win the Machine MMA belt, you get the professional, so it's an amateur show, you get the professional contract in Cage Warriors, which is good because Cage Warriors is then the stepping stone to the UFC. So what it does is it gives the young fighters a stepping, a real progress, like, here's your map, let's work forward like that. So
when I first saw your Instagram handle, I thought it was Ian MI6 Butlin, but then I realised it was M16.
M16, yeah.
But where did that come from?
So this was an old coach of mine called Aaron Chatfield. I say old coach; he's 10 years older than me. He's not particularly old, and he's actually just been competing. So he competes at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now. He's won titles. He's very, very good and one of the most dedicated. Like I give a huge shout out to him because this guy cornered me for all my professional fights. Whenever you need someone to turn up to train, he was always the one, like completely selfless. This guy has been in Japan with me and, all around the country, and a huge sort of inspiration for me, like seeing him now still competing, still getting himself in good shape at this age. And he came from a Thai boxing background originally and started grappling MMA. And one of the first people really that I sort of met when I moved away from Les Allen and I started chatting to him on the SF UK forum. So anyway, so he was training me and my brother from early days. This is when we just opened the Quantum Gym. We were the first gym in the country to have like a cage, a ring, and everything, like a purpose-built facility. This was like 2002, 2003, and Aaron was training us. And me and my twin brother were very different in our styles of fighting. So people say when Dave hits you, stay hit. Like he's got a right bomb on him, like it's like because his technique's not the brilliant, the best. Like I'm not, he's good, like, but his technique's not the best. But when he hits you, it's like right, you've been hit with a yeah, it's good night. Whereas I was much more, fast combinations, like more sort of boxing. So. Aaron just called him B-52 as a bomber and me M16, saying it's like, like you're surrounded like a machine gun. So that's where it came from. And then that kind of spread through the team. We've got another guy, Matt Thorpe, he fought with me in Japan and America on the England M1 team. And they called him 12 gauge, he was big. And then Martin Stapleton, who was one of the best fighters I trained him early days. He went on, trained with lots of different coaches and progressed himself and really improved into an exceptional fighter. He was also a Royal Marine, and he was on the 50 cal gunning, so he ended up being called 50 cal. So we had a team with all these sort of names. M16, that. Yeah. So, but that's where it came from. So he originally started with the difference between mine and Dave's striking styles.
Right. And when you look at fighters, if you was going to say, the best Thai boxers are in Thailand, the best judo people in Japan, the best jiu-jitsu people in Brazil. Would you say that or not?
No, I think things have changed a lot over the years. And I like the idea of having a lineage for the jiu-jitsu and my grades. I can see all my grades back to, the Gracies down through Roberto Tala and everything like that. And I really do believe that the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys and the Brazilians are very, very good. You'll see some of the Americans calling it American Jiu-Jitsu now, but they're pretty much doing the same sort of thing. But I think with what happened with, there's something called ADCC, which is it's like the biggest event really in the world for grappling, the Abu Dhabi Combat Club. So it started with the Sheikhs in Abu Dhabi, and everyone used to travel there. So what you'd get there was the Sambo guys, you'd get the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, you'd get wrestlers, they all sort of go against each other. And in the same way that the early UFCs were different arts against each other, the early ADCC was different arts against each other. But what happens is, and this is the same when you see with MMA, as the rules change, the style changes because it has to work towards the rules. And that's what happened with grappling. So ADCC really, I feel, got everyone to start mixing. So grappling in itself is a mixed martial art now. A lot of people do no gi. Some people still do the gi. The gi game is probably still similar to what the Brazilians were doing, but the no gi game especially is really a mixed martial art of its own. What I teach no gi specifically, I still do some gi stuff, and I still believe in doing the grades in the gi for the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys. But what I teach is much more around, it's a mixed martial art. You've got the Sambo, you've got the leg locks, which probably a lot of them attributed to John Danaher's team over in and the Australians as well. So they were sort of developing different leg lock games themselves. I've had the opportunity to train with some of the top guys, but also we live in a time where you can download instructional videos from all sorts of different areas. So there's the game's progressing so much you can't link it to any one person. I've got a guy, Ash Williams, who he's from Wales, absolutely exceptional competitor, and I get him up to do the coaching. He'll do a seminar at least once a year up at our place, and it's because his style suits really well with ours, but he's also so good at breaking down the techniques and stuff. So, I mean, that's, you talk about the different countries, that's a guy from Wales who, to me, I rank as one of the best guys as a competitor and a coach around.
Yeah.
So.
And you set up the Black Can, you obviously retired from fighting, you've gone, into doing the commentary stuff. I mean, that must be pretty crazy because you go all around the world, don't you, to places that people don't ever get to go. Yeah,
so I mean, I first did commentary in 2004 on a show down in Portsmouth, which it was an exciting event. I actually did the commentary with a guy called Howell Teague, who was, again, he's gone on, he does the grappling, so he does the things like the ADCC and things like that. So he went to live in Brazil for a while and again travelled from doing the commentary. I then was still fighting through to 2009. I got asked to come back with M1 to do the commentary with Ian Freeman. So, I've done around that year. They did M1 Global's like the mixed martial arts, the World Cup of mixed martial arts. So you had Brazil against England and, all these different countries. So they built a good network. And so we were in Japan doing commentary. We were in Atlantic City, China, Korea, Kazakhstan, I've been many times, Ukraine, Helsinki, honestly, the list goes on. Right. So I've had the opportunity through boxing to go to the Seychelles, to go to Cyprus. I've fought in Japan and America for MMA, and then I've traveled to places around the world that you don't really get to go. The southern Caucasus of Russia, so Ingushetia, which is close to the Chechen border, right down in the south. So I've done quite a lot of shows there in the Russian mountains. These are crazy places that you've never. It's not something that you'd look in a holiday brochure and get to go on holiday. Right. And at the moment, I've done the last 3 years in the Xinjiang region of China. So that's up near the Tajikistan and Kazakhstan border. So you fly into China and then you got to fly up and to that area. Again, just amazing places. That I'm a great foodie, I love food. And
someone said they eat some mad shit out there.
Yeah, but the flavors are just so amazing. And especially the Xinjiang region, because you've got the influence of Tajikistan, so the old Soviet states. So you've got a bit more of the Russian influence on the food as well as the Chinese. It's a really nice blend. Wow. I love the food there. So
they don't do sort of sweet and sour chicken and egg fried rice. It's a little bit more.
No, but they've got some stuff that's a bit like that, similar kind of thing to that. But
because I went to Singapore once and I tried the food there, and I actually thought that when you have the Oriental food in England, it was better.
Right, yeah, because it's more for the Western taste.
But I've not been to China, so
no.
But would you say that it's completely different?
I'd say it's different. I really, really enjoy it. We've actually got a restaurant called Rivers in Huddersfield, which do a very traditional kind of. So they've got like the menu for
us
for the Westerners, yeah, but they've got their own menu, and it's much more similar to what we have in China.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you talk about Singapore, that is high on my list of places I want to go.
I'm talking 30 years ago, so it's probably changed massively since.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at Singapore. I've read quite a lot on Lee Kuan Yew, who was, to me, like we were talking earlier about, like being able to fix the country. You look at what he did with Singapore. For me, like that guy needs to be looked at as like what I know. There's things that happen in there that you wouldn't be able to do in the West. You know, like the way that he changed it. But he changed that from like pretty much like a little village into an international powerhouse.
Well, look at Dubai. I mean that.
Yeah, and Dubai followed a fairly similar kind of. I know that they had they've got the resources, which Singapore did it with no resources really, but Dubai, yeah, it's unreal.
I was born in 1971 in January, and I think Dubai, I'm pretty sure in September 1971, decided actually we want to start expanding, and obviously when the ruler was talking about his visions for Dubai. Everyone was like thought he was crazy. But if you actually fast forward, I know obviously right now there's all these issues in the Middle East, but if you actually fast forwarded from 1971, I think it was the 50-year anniversary, you looked at what the Dubai royal family had achieved.
Yeah.
And it's nothing short of remarkable. And
you
think the model, the vision, the rules, the enforcement, everything, and you sort of think, well, because it's so big and so successful, you think everyone around the world, like you said about Singapore, would look at it and go, do you know what, guys? These guys know their shit. Let's take what they're doing and do it here. And then it's like literally you build a better world. But
and this is it. And you look at Singapore. I think, like say, Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, he did a fantastic job. Norway.
It was Sheikh Mohammed. It was Sheikh Mohammed's vision, wasn't it?
That was him, in the Middle East. So you look at these different areas, and they've done so well. And then you look at what's happening in the UK, and you just feel like I don't want to feel disappointed because, like I said, I love my country and everything like that. But I just feel like no country's ever succeeded by taxing the rich.
No,
I think you need to be encouraging entrepreneurs, and I think just at the moment we're in a position. Maybe it's because me and your business owners trying to make films and do stuff, but I just feel like they need to encourage entrepreneurship. They need to encourage business, encourage young kids. At the moment, I think we had a tipping point just the last month where the money being taken in from tax dropped below the money that's being paid out for benefits. That's a really dangerous position for the country to be in, And it's like, how do you turn that around? How do we encourage and again, you've got people who are not having 2.3 children. They're all having. So we've got sort of this middle ground of an age group where. We do need to be bringing in workers. I see the reason why for immigration and again, I'm not one of these anti-immigration and all this sort of thing. It's like, look, what I'm for is a positive country that can succeed, and there's some huge holes in how we're doing things, and taxing the rich and overtaxing them to the point that they're going to leave. I know that they're just changing the rules so you can have this sort of 10-year tax things, and that's something that we're advising people on as well to make sure everyone's compliant. With that sort of stuff, because a lot of our clients did move to Dubai and places like that. But for me, it's like that this isn't the solution. It's like putting your thumb in a hole in a dam, in it. Like you're not fixing the problem. But
there was a lot of immigration in the 70s when I grew up,
and
all the people that come here because they wanted a better life. But the thing that they all wanted to do was work, and they wanted to pay their way. And they were proud people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's a huge difference, especially when you talk about the Windrush generation compared with what we've got now. That was we had a country that was severely damaged from World War II, and we needed help. And that the Windrush generation, especially they came over to the country, helped. Like we rebuilt the country into something great. And like I said, I do think like that. It's absolutely it's amazing what we've done. the situation now, I think, is very, very different. You know, and I don't think the two should be compared either. And like I said, that's why I think, you know, it's easy to have this big label of immigration being a problem. But there's so many different types of immigration, and we're a country that's, you know, I've got mixed race children, you know, and I know that like this is a positive. Like if you look at, you know, your own heritage and things like that, it's like, look, my family, my background personally came from all over different parts of Europe. Those aren't the issues. Those aren't the issues in the country.
I think the biggest issue for me, when I look at it from a British perspective, is there's people online creating these how to cheat the system, right? So there's people on TikTok or on Instagram going, listen, guys, and this isn't necessarily in this country, it's overseas. Listen, guys, if you want to change your life, get on a boat, turn up in England, and if you say these things, you can claim asylum, you can claim immigration, you can get a house, you can get this. So people are kind of getting told how to play the system.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is, and they do it with benefits here, and they also do it with, listen, guys, you know, you might not feel like, you know, you can set up a business or you want to go to work. But, you know, if you have some children and just keep churning them out, you'll get these benefits, you'll get a free house. And people, you know, unfortunately, there's two sets of people in this world. There's people that actually want to work and they're proud and they want to create stuff, and they're only going to have 2 or 3 kids if they can afford it. And then there's other people that go, do you know what, I don't really want to do that. Is there a movie? Is there a shortcut?
Yeah.
And then if someone's going, yeah, here's a shortcut, mate, because, you know, you can't, I don't believe for 1 minute that all the people that are currently on benefits in England deserve them. I reckon that there's a big percentage of them that are just playing the system because they can't be f***ed. Yeah. And I've heard people say it where people have said to me, like, you know, I'm like, why don't you actually set up a business? Why don't you go and get a job? What's the fucking point? If I do that, I'm going to be worse off. So whoever has invented that system, it doesn't work.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that definitely, it just needs fixing. You know, there's some definite things there where it's like, yeah, this isn't it. But I think something that you highlighted there that I think is really, really important is that social media, you mentioned TikTok, but as you know, the Instagram and Facebook, what it's doing is it's giving kids a vision of a life that looks easy to create something amazing, and it's not. Like
it's hard work.
We need consistency and hard work. And I say it to the guys that I teach grappling. I've been saying it to the boxers for years. Like, there is no secret to success. It's just consistency and hard work.
Do you know what's funny?
You know,
when people go on social media, there's loads of these. Oh, you know, this is a life hack. If you follow my system and give me 50 quid a month, I can make you, you know, rich using an hour or whatever. But the reality is, right, you have to put in the work. And the thing is, if somebody was on Instagram going, do you know what, I've been doing this for 10 years and I keep failing and it's not working, yeah, they would be ridiculed for that.
Yeah.
Right? Because people go, oh, you're obviously doing something wrong. But you know, I've dug so many holes in my life and I've had so many holes I've fell down, I've got out of, I've built things, I've lost things, but it's life. And the thing is, and you've got to go through it.
If I look at the amount of things that I've failed at and I look at the business, you know, like, it's funny because my daughter says it to me all the time. Like, well, like she's talked to people and she'll say at school, "Oh yeah, my dad was a fighter." "Oh yeah, my dad's got a computer." You know, she's in computer science. "My dad does a computer security." My dad. It's like, does your dad do everything? Like, why has your dad got so many jobs? And I was saying, like, look, like I just was trying so many different things. You know, like if you look at the amount of businesses and things that I've tried to set up that have failed. There's so many of them, things that I thought were going to work, that were going to really work.
Nobody ever does anything or sets anything up to fail. No. Everyone does it to win. So I think if you have the right intention, sometimes it don't work out. This
is it. And Visage Cinema wasn't the first time that I tried to make movies either. You know, like I'd done it before and failed and lost money on it. And, you know, and I'd done some short films early before. And it didn't work out, and there's various reasons why that didn't happen. You know, it's not like you can blame any one person. It just didn't work.
But I think in any business you go into, right, you've always got to work with some people that, you know, don't because you, whatever business you work in, there's always going to be somebody somewhere that either doesn't do what they said they're going to do, or they promise you something and then don't deliver. And then that causes you a problem because you're going, well, I need that. So then you have to find somebody else, and then they deliver, and then it's like, fucking hell, I wish I'd have spoke to you in the first place. But, But even if you've got relationships with people for like multiple years, even if you know people really well, they still let you down.
Yeah, 100%. And this is one of the things that you find, and I think as you improve and progress in business, your network can get wider, but you definitely filter down the people that you're 100%. Working with and things like that. And
you have to go like that regularly.
Yeah, really do that. And I think one of the things with Visage Cinema, especially, was because of the way that I was sort of brought on board. Thierry was a young writer, director, editor. He pretty much makes the whole films himself, and because the way I was brought on board, there was already a certain few people involved in in how things were working. And one particular guy was who's the person who actually introduced me to Thierry. But I got involved to do some fight choreography on his film, the first feature film that he's got distributed worldwide.
Right.
And
what was that called?
It was called Imperative, but It's distributed worldwide as The Punished.
Right.
So,
and the film that you're finishing off now, what's that called?
That's called Enter the Furnace.
Right. So that's going to be the film that comes out this year with Tales from the Trap. So we've got two movies coming out.
We've got two movies coming out at the end of the year, both sort of crime films, but I think ours is very northern, yours is very southern, isn't it? So it's a nice blend, I think, between the two. But I'm looking forward to both of them.
The north and the south.
We've got it all covered. So, we got rid of some of the guys that were causing issues, and we've streamlined things, and things are going well. I think right now we've got the films nearly ready to be out. We've got Ian Livingston that you introduced us to the sound, who replaced the guy that couldn't do the job, and he's absolutely fantastic. It's so good because I'm not a creative kind of guy like that at all. So, but I'm involved in the email trail between him and Thierry. So when Thierry will tell him, this is
creative,
they do all that sort of stuff. I just read it and all. I don't even understand what's going on. But Thierry wants this kind of, because with Enter the Furnace, and with The Punished, and I think probably with every film he makes, he likes to have this idea where you can't really tell what time it is. It could be the 80s, it could be the 2000s, or whatever. But he's got a real love. He likes kind of the older Michael Mann films, Thief and stuff like that, and he likes stuff like To Live and Die in LA and all this. So the music kind of style that he's gone for with Enter the Furnace, there's quite a lot of synths and stuff like that. So it kind of like the 80s, even maybe like some of the bits you might think was like in The Business with Danny Dyer. So anyway, so I'm sort of listening to stuff, but the way that he will be talking to Ian, and he'll show him like he's got a scene. He'll say to Ian, "This is what I'm kind of looking for with this." Ian then puts some music on it. I'm like, "Wow, that's pretty amazing." And then Thierry might say a tiny little tweak. It comes back, and even Thierry's like, this guy's doing it better than I could have done it in my head. Like, that's better than what I thought it was going to be. So, I mean, a huge thank you to you, because this guy is he's amazing. And he's introduced us to other people he works with, to do the licensing for songs and things. So I can foresee a future where we're going to work with the same team over and over. This is like,
the thing is, it's like the problem with the film business is there's lots of people that will approach you and go, oh, let's do this, let's do that. But all they want to do is get something off you.
Yes.
But they don't want to give anything back. So I think definitely with what you're doing, you want to keep your circle small and don't get led into, oh yeah, why don't you come do this, and I've got this and I've got that. Everyone's got an amazing opportunity. I mean, I remember a friend of mine who sold his business, and he actually said to me, he said, oh, you make films, can you give me some advice? And I said, what do you want advice on? And he said, well, I've got this opportunity. And he said, this guy said to me that if I invest in, I think it was a Carry On, they were remaking the Carry On films, right? And he said he had the franchise. I don't know if he did or he didn't. And he said, I need to raise this money for this film. It's going to be this, that, and the other. And the Carry On films were really big. And he actually took my friend into Palmer Studios, and there was a big, like a conference room. So we sat in the conference room talking to him about it, and he's going, oh, we're going to do all this, we're going to do all that. We're going to bring Barbara Windsor back. She was alive at that point. Yeah. And he's like, oh, wow, this is really cool. You know, we've got Shane Ritchie, we've got Vinnie Jones, we've got all these people. And he's like, you know, if I invest in this, they promise me that I'm going to get 125% return on my investment, right? So I'm like, so he said, what do you think of it? And I said, well, have you seen the contract? He said, it says in the contract. I said, well, why is he offering you it? Because if you think about it, if I could generate 125% on anything, I wouldn't be going to you going, oh, do you want to put 50 grand in or 100 grand in? I'll be going to the city going, can I have $1 billion, please?
Yeah.
Because I've got this new fucking thing where I can turn out 125% returns on investments. So I said to him, I said, it's bollocks. It's never going to happen. And I said, you can sign that bit of paper, but I said, he will nick your money.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
and that's exactly what happened.
Well, you know, it's like with the films. You know, I was involved with distribution on the first film and looking for this one, and they give you your MGs. You've got your minimum guarantees, and then we're getting told, oh, you'll probably get 4 times your minimum guarantees. It's like, come on.
I mean, the thing is,
by the time it comes through, there's so many costs, and you've got to be careful with distributors as well that they're not taking a cost every single time. It's like I think you need to sort of cap things like that.
I think the problem with the film business is if you sign a deal with a distributor, like we had a deal with the Weinstein Company, and then it come out that he was behaving badly, and then the company went out of business.
Yeah,
and that was, you know, Harvey Weinstein sold his company to.
You didn't get on his couch, did you?
No. He never invited me. But $1 billion. Right, he sold his company for $1 billion. So this is a producer who's an Oscar winner selling his company for $1 billion. And if you said, what's the odds of him going out of business? You say never.
Yeah,
but he did. So when you're signing these deals with people, you've got to sort of hope that they stay in business. You got to hope they don't do a Me Too on somebody.
Yeah.
And also I just think that it's very hard now, because when you develop a project, you got to develop it with the view that, you know, it might take me a year to develop this.
Yeah.
And it might take me a year to get the money together. Then I've got to make it, and then it's another year before it comes out. So you got to think, you got to have a crystal ball really to go, I'm going to develop this project, and in 3 years' time it's going to come out. So nobody actually knows whether it's going to make money, lose money.
And you know the issues that we've had with Enter the Furnace. You know, we had the issue firstly with an actor who filmed part of the film and then was basically like, right, I want you to sign a contract saying I get 33% of the film, or I'm not signing any more. And like, what? But
this is
all learning.
But the thing is that, unfortunately, I know people who've cast people in films, and they've got 2 or 3 weeks into a film, and then the person's been offered some massive opportunity, and they've gone, so I'm not filming this anymore. I've got something better going on.
Something better.
And they're like, well, you can't really do that. And, you know, but it's very, there's no loyalty in the film business, unfortunately.
And I know this is something that me and you have talked about a lot. It's like, you know, I've come from, you know, working with sometimes what you describe as villains and things, and you know, and dealing with hundreds of thousands or, you know, and more. And you're doing all your deals on a handshake. And then you get into a business like this, and you've got little squirts and like doing these deals and hiding behind clauses in contracts and people doing this, and it's like where's the honor, where's your morals? You know, like you know, if you're in a situation, it's like, right, okay, well, someone's giving you this amount of money to do a job, but I can get out if I just hide behind this clause in the contract. I couldn't live with myself. Like I said, you know, with my previous work and the way that I worked, you know, I built up a reputation for doing what I said I was going to do and being loyal and being good with money. And never did I have to sign a contract with anyone to say, when I go collect that money, I'll definitely bring it back for you. Do you know what I mean? Oh, well, actually, clause number 3.1 says that I don't have to hand it over because I got a flat tire on the way home. It's like, what? Sure. Like, come on, where's your morals? Like, how do you live with yourself? You know?
But I think because it's an unpredictable business, and you have a lot of fantasists. You have a lot of people that that come into it, and you know, I've had loads of people that I've met over the years, and I mean, I've been in this for 23 years, and you can imagine I've seen some fucking mad like stuff, and I've met some absolute bullshitters, and you've dealt with people that you've worked with, and you'd think, oh, this guy's honourable, he's going to do the right thing, and they haven't done it.
And they're
you
just full of shit.
And it does make you actually realise, you know, I mean, somebody else I know who got into the film business, said exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
He said, like, literally, every time I shake hands with someone, I have to check to make sure I still got my fucking rings on.
That's it.
Do you know what I mean?
It's awful. Like I said, there's just literally no honour or morals.
But if you get it right, and you have something that pops.
And this is what I was saying about this sort of streamline. It's like, look, the work we've done together, the people that you've introduced me to, and the people that we've got working now, I just feel like we're getting tighter and tighter to this really good team.
You just need a team of the right people around you.
Yeah.
And it's not guaranteed that every time you do something you're going to win, but you've got more chance of prevailing if you got the right people around you.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, the thing is, like, at the moment, I've got my son and my nephew who are over. They're doing business management degrees. So Callum, my son, and Tyler, my nephew. You know, really good, forward-thinking guys, and they're starting to do some of the work for Black Cairn, some of the encryption, you know. They're really good at what they do, and I'd love to get to a point where, you know, they could be running that company. I still do my bits of commentary for MMA Consultants because I love traveling around the world doing the commentary, you know, when I get the opportunity. And then I could focus on Visage Cinema and focus on doing the films, because I do love the industry, you know.
Right,
look at this, you know, we have some great chats. Yeah, it's brilliant. We were, you know, I've just stayed at a Soho House on Dean Street while we were down here looking down at the screening room and things like that. And, you know, I'm over at the Soho House in Manchester as well. And you meet some good people involved, good creatives and things like that. And you think, this is just such a nice group of people. I think there's just the few sort of bad eggs that kind of could have ruined it at the start. And Thierry was really worried. He was, you know, because of how we come in and we were trying to help him initially. And my goal with Visage Cinema, it was never financial. It was, we'll try and make a film. We've got this young lad who just needs the opportunity to be able to do things creatively. He was being crushed creatively by a guy who was wanting him just to make him famous. I want you to make these films about me. The story that Thierry had written for Enter the Furnace, he was trying to get him to change it to like Taken. Right. And he wanted to be the main guy, wanted to be the, you know, like, I'm going to save the world and save my kid and everything like this. And, you know, you could see how all this was going on. But so my goal, I don't even get involved in what Thierry, like if Thierry asks me advice on things to do with scripts or anything like that, I will. And obviously on certain scenes, and he's got this real thing where he'll be like, right, this is really roughy and it's a rough cut, you know, this is, you know, like he's always excusing his work, and I'll watch it, it's amazing. Yeah. I think he made me look so cool. Yeah. You know, like, I wish he could just follow me around with a camera all the time. And
for you, Ian, like, look, you know, you've obviously been successful at what you've done in your life. What would you say your rules are for success? And also, if you've got any like mantras or any particular things that you follow to keep yourself on that right track.
For me, and like I said, I go on about this to my kids and to my students and to everyone I work with. Like, look, everyone can have motivation at different times in their life, but you've just got to have discipline. Right. Like, you've got, like, on the day, the people who are successful are people that can get up and do the same stuff on the days they don't feel like doing it. Right. And you know, so discipline, hard work, and consistency. And I know that's going to sound really, really boring, but success is just that. You know, I mean, it's just constantly getting up.
What was that saying? The harder you work, the luckier you get.
The luckier you get. That's it. Yeah. And look, for me, it's like, I'm not saying that everything that I've worked hard at, have been disciplined at, and been consistent at has worked either, right, because there's so many things. But the other thing is, it's who was it now said, success is going from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
it's a great quote.
And I think that it's so important. You know, if you can do that, if you can just keep, like, and I'm not saying, like, honestly, Terry, like, when things go wrong or a business idea or something I was collapsing, I do have a week of being like the horriblest person in the world that you want to be around. Right. But then I pick myself up, I have a proper word with myself, and I'm up and doing it. So again, it's like, it's not a straight linear line, is it? It's a bumpy road, but it's being able to pick yourself up. Things have gone bad, things have gone shit. You know, people have cheated you out of money. People have ripped you off on a contract. People have who you trusted have turned around and done something bad to you. All these things are going to happen in your life, but it's being able to just brush yourself off, have a word with yourself, and go, well, in the end, it's going to be their loss. We're just going to keep moving forward.
100%. I mean, that's great advice, by the way, for anybody listening or watching this podcast, because, you know, you do fall over and things don't work out. And, you know, you can sit there crying about it. My friend makes me laugh. He says you can have sit home having your own little pity party. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Or
That's
you can
it.
just get off your ass and go, do you know what? It's not worked out. But because, when I first did sales, when I was 17 and I went on a sales course, the guy said, every time you get a no, you're closer to a yes.
Yeah.
And he was saying things that sort of sowed
Because an objection, and so, look.
sowing the seeds of positivity, because it's very easy. If I said to you, I've got this great thing here, do you want to buy it? And you said, no, I don't. Oh, fucking hell. No one wants to buy my stuff. It's the end of the world. Or I can go, do you know what?
Yeah.
He obviously doesn't know a good thing when he sees it. I'll ask someone else. And then they turn and go, I'll have one. And you go, right, I'm on a roll now. And then you ask someone else to get fuck off. But the thing is, you've got to keep going.
And this is it. And I think, because I did sales as well for a while, and one of the most valuable courses that I ever did, and it's called social styles. I don't know if you ever looked at this, but everyone has different sort of social styles. And so it's on this quadrant. So we answer a little question at the start. It tells you what sort of social styles you're in. And the way that it did it, it was working on a quadrant. It was saying, like, you've got a lion and a monkey and a dolphin and an elephant. And that's how it did it. So it's a different social style. And what I was finding was, when I was going to sell to certain people, I was finding it very, very difficult to sell to those people. And I was particularly at the time a monkey. I think as time's gone on, I'm more over to the lion side. But what was happening? Yeah. I'm just more direct and less fun. Do you know what I mean? Right. But what I was finding was, I was talking to someone. So I'm trying to sell to a doctor who's a lion sort of personality. Now, a lion just wants you to tell them the points. This. Whereas a monkey wants to try and build rapport and try and talk and work around this. Now, what happens is, as you're working in that sort of style, you actually start to piss them. So the more he's off with me, the more I try to build rapport with him. And then the more I do that, the more off he is, because he just wants you to get to the point. Yeah. So what I learned from that course was, look, when you're talking to that sort of person, if I'm talking, initially I'll meet someone straight away, I can tell they're a lion. So do you know what? I'll be more of a lion. I'll just be straight to the point and do this.
Am I a monkey or a giraffe?
A bit of both.
All right, so I'm a monkey giraffe hybrid.
Hybrid. So it's like, and everyone's got different personalities, haven't they? So a lot of time, as well as whether people are the right, like, people might not be good or bad. Some people are just not the right people for you to work with. Like, you just don't get on, or you're not going to be successful together. So it doesn't particularly mean that just because I've stopped working with certain people, it's because they were a bad guy. Sometimes we just don't have there's no synergy between the two of us working together.
Got it.
So.
And if you look at your life now and you look forward, because you must have a list of goals that you want to complete.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm constantly, like, setting goals. That's why, like I said, going back and doing my masters, because it was one of those things that I just I felt like I wish I'd achieved it earlier, and I wanted to go back. And I'm like, if I did, maybe I wouldn't have got into King's College, and I wouldn't have been able to do it with such a high level sort of person. And I'm really into that sort of thing. Like, even now grappling, I like to try and grapple the best guys and try to improve my grappling. That way, I say, I like iron sharpens iron. In the same way as doing that in the physical respect, like, I do believe, debating with, my colleagues and the professors and stuff at King's College, you get that imposter syndrome a little bit, like, and I still get that with grappling and with everything I do, but then you do all right, and you're like, yeah, do you know what, I do all right. So to answer your question, like, I'm constantly trying to improve myself. I read all the time. I'm really, like, interested in learning.
I think anybody that wants to learn, reading is the best thing, because so many people don't read anymore.
Yeah, they don't. And there's a really famous quote in there saying, if you don't read, you might as well not be able to read. And it's so true. It's really important. The one thing that I've got now is, because I only finished my masters at the end of last year. And so I didn't, when I took that on with the 3 businesses that I'm running as well, it's like, I'm constantly spinning plates anyway, you know what I'm like, I'm always busy. I didn't appreciate how much reading I was going to have to do. It was a lot. So I didn't do a lot of reading for myself, things that I wanted to read and stuff. So I've got a backlog of books, because I'd still see books and think, I want to read that, so I'll get that. So really over this next year, one of the things I'm doing is just catching up on on reading those. We're looking at, Thierry's already got 2 ideas, 2 sort of scripts ready for the next film for when Enter the Furnace goes out. We're looking at running film festivals with Enter the Furnace, and do that before we start to even look at any distribution things. Because it's been on hold for a little while. It's like there's no rush to get into doing any of this. I'm really, really proud of the film, Terry. I can't wait for you to see it complete, and I can't wait to get it out there for, like I said, into some film festivals. Maybe even win something, and then look at doing it like. When I say to you, like, you know, this young kid's done the whole thing himself. Like, literally, like, he sits there, he does the editing, he does everything. He's using Sony Vegas, right, which most people use Premiere Pro or which, honestly, this is like the bane of my life. Like, I can spend a whole day because I hate Windows. I used Apple computers for years. Then I moved over to Linux. I use Apple for some certain things, but I use a Linux operating system. And Thierry, because he taught himself as a kid on Sony Vegas, which only works on Windows, right, literally he'll ring me up and he'll be like, it stopped working, it's done on automatic, and I'm having to fix a computer system that I would never use myself. I was so frustrated with him. But I think because he knows it inside out, and he's a little bit like Rain Man for making films.
Are you buying him an Apple computer for Christmas?
I can't tell you how many times I've tried to buy him an Apple computer. I cannot get him to move away from. So we got the best we could with with the Windows operating system in this Sony Vegas. I still get crashed. It was last week. I wasted a full day on a video call with Thierry trying to fix where it had done an automatic update, and the automatic update had stopped Sony Vegas from rendering video. And I'm like, Thierry, like, can we talk about Apple again? No. Like, all right then,
Brilliant.
So,
brilliant. Well, Ian, it's been an absolute honour to have you on the show. I think we've had a fantastic chat today. I think we've gone over lots of things, but I'm sure there'll be a part 2, so we can come back and talk about some more stuff and go into a bit deeper on some other stuff as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'd love to do that.
Brilliant. Thanks for coming on, Ian.
Thanks, Terry. Cheers.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Tales from the Trap podcast. Ian M16 Butlin. What a great guest. What an absolute legend. If you're not following him on social media, make sure you drop him a follow, and make sure you like him, make sure you subscribe in, and we'll see you on the other side.